I gripped the steering wheel of my beat-up Ford pickup, knuckles white, as Nathaniel's text lit up my phone. Meet me at the bridge. Now, we need to end this. My heart slammed against my ribs, a wild thing caged too long, because I knew end this wasn't just words. It was the crack in the foundation of everything we'd whispered into existence over the past year. And just like that, in the split second it took for me to swerve into the empty parking lot by the Fremont Bridge, I realized our tender unraveling had begun, pulling me under like the black current of the sound below. I'm Finn Harper, 28, a barista by day and a dreamer by night in this city of perpetual drizzle and hidden heartaches. Seattle suits me. Gray skies mirroring the quiet storms inside, coffee shops buzzing with stories no one dares tell aloud. That's where I first saw Nathaniel Ellis, stepping into my shift at the little indie spot on Capitol Hill like he'd wandered out of one of those old noir films. Tall, with that effortless blonde curl that fell just so over his forehead, and eyes like the fog rolling off Lake Union. Piercing blue, but soft around the edges, like they held secrets they weren't sure they wanted to keep. He ordered a black Americano, no foam, and as I handed it over, our fingers brushed. Electricity, the kind that makes your breath hitch. Rough morning, I asked because his smile didn't reach those eyes. He lingered at the counter, stirring sugar he didn't need. More like a lifetime of them, he said, voice low and laced with that East Coast clip. Boston, I guess later. We talked for 10 minutes about nothing. The Mariners' losing streak, the best faux spots in the International District. But it was everything. By closing time, he'd scribbled his number on a napkin. Call me if you ever need a real conversation. I did, that same night, and what started as late-night calls about bad exes and worse jobs bloomed into walks along the waterfront. Hands brushing in the chill. Whispers shared under the shadow of the Space Needle. Our love was built on those whispers, fragile as the steam rising from our coffees. Nathaniel was a graphic designer, freelancing from a cramped studio apartment in Belltown, but he carried the weight of expectations like an anchor. His family back in Massachusetts, old money, old rules, had mapped out his life. Law school, a firm in Boston, marriage to some debutante named Claire who'd been his intended since college mixers. He laughed it off at first, calling it the family script. But I saw the flicker in his eyes when he mentioned her photo on his desk, the one his mom had framed and shipped cross-country. It's not real, Finn, he'd murmur against my neck during those stolen evenings in my Queen and walk-up, our bodies tangled in sheets that smelled of salt air and takeout Thai. You're the real thing. Temptation crept in slow, like the tide lapping at Alki Beach. We'd meet in hidden corners, the overgrown paths of Discovery Park at dawn, where the evergreens muffled our laughter, or the dim-lit speakeasy in Pioneer Square, nursing whiskeys while jazz crooned about lost loves. He'd trace patterns on my palm with his thumb, spelling out futures we both knew were borrowed time. What if we just left? He'd say one night, head on my chest, the city lights painting stripes across his skin. Drove east till the map ran out, Montana, maybe. Big skies, no judgments. I'd pull him closer, inhaling the cedar of his cologne mixed with the faint trace of ink from his sketches. Sweetness like that. His fingers interlacing mine, his breath warm on my collarbone, made the world shrink to just us. But temptation has teeth, and his family's annual visit loomed like a storm front. It hit in waves that fall. His sister, Eliza, flew out first, all sharp bob and sharper questions, crashing at his place for a week. I stayed away, per his plea. She's got radar for this stuff. But the texts dried up, replaced by curt busy and talk soon. When she left, he showed up at my door at midnight, soaked from the rain, eyes red-rimmed. She cornered me about Claire, said Dad's setting up interviews for the firm. We didn't make love that night. We just held on. His sobs muffled into my shoulder, my hand stroking his back until the dawn chorus of gulls broke through. I love you, Finn, he whispered, the words a vow etched in the quiet. This us. It's the only truth I've got. But truths like ours don't stay buried in rainy cities. The betrayal slithered in during November, when the leaves turned to mush underfoot and the holiday lights mocked our secrecy. I'd planned a surprise. tickets to an indie folk concert at the Tractor Tavern, a picnic under the stars if the weather held. He canceled last minute. Family call, emergency. And I spent the evening alone on my balcony, strumming my guitar to half-forgotten chords, the sound a black mirror reflecting my doubts. The next day, he ghosted. No calls, no texts. Panic clawed at me as I paced my shift, spilling lattes and snapping at customers. By evening, I drove to his studio, heart in my throat. The door was ajar, light spilling like an accusation. Inside, voices, his low and pleading, hers, cool and cutting. Claire. I'd seen her photos. Porcelain skin, auburn waves, the kind of beauty that turns heads in boardrooms. She stood by his drafting table, arms crossed, while he raked hands through his hair. Nathaniel, this isn't you, she was saying, voice like silk over steel. Hiding in this godforsaken rain pit, playing house with whoever. Your father's ill. He needs you home. He glanced up then, saw me in the doorway, and his face crumpled. Guilt, love, terror all twisted together. Finn, he breathed, stepping forward. But she blocked him, eyes narrowing on me like I was a stain on the rug. Who's this? Your barista buddy. The word dripped venom, and something in me snapped. I turned and bolted, the rain swallowing my footsteps, his calls chasing me into the night. That was the hook that reeled me in deeper. The betrayal not just of his silence, but of the life he'd promised in whispers, now slipping through our fingers like fog. Days blurred into a haze of double shifts and denial. I crashed at a buddy's couch in Ballard, ignoring the pity in his eyes when I finally spilled. Dude, you deserve better than some closet case, Jake said, cracking open a Rainier. But better felt like a lie. Nathaniel was etched into me, his laugh echoing in empty alleys, his touch a ghost on my skin. Temptation won out on the fourth night. I texted, the bridge. Midnight. No more games. The reply came instant. I'm coming. That's how we ended up there, under the Fremont's arc lights, the rain a curtain between us and the world. He arrived in his wool coat, collar turned up, looking like a man who'd aged a decade.
Finn, Gu, I'm sorry.
His voice cracked, and he reached for me. But I stepped back, the letter he'd left in my mailbox burning a hole in my pocket. I have to go home. For them. For me. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said, throat tight. You let her in. You let them win. He sank against the railing, the water churning below like our unraveling hearts. Claire showed up unannounced. Said Dad's cancer's back, stage 4. They need me, Finn. The firm, the legacy. It's all I know how to give them. Tears mixed with rain on his cheeks. And damn if it didn't twist the knife. Sweetness in the sorrow, the way he still looked at me like I was salvation. But I can't lose you. Come with me? Boston's not the end of the world. The temptation hung there, thick as the mist. Pack my life into a duffel. Chase him across the country. Build something real amid the Ivy Leagues and family dinners. But betrayal's echo was louder. The nights he'd pulled away, the whispers that turned to silence. And what then? I pressed, voice rising over the storm. Hide me in the guest room? Pretend for photo ops. He flinched, and in that moment, I saw the boy he'd been, raised on expectations, loving in shadows. We stood there, words failing, until a gust whipped the letter from my pocket, sending it spiraling into the abyss. He lunged for it, fingers grazing mine, and for a heartbeat, we were connected again. Two hearts whispering against the roar. I love you, he said, fierce and final. That doesn't change. But love, I was learning, isn't always enough to bridge the gaps we carve ourselves. The days after the bridge blurred into a numb routine, Seattle's winter wrapping around me like a shroud. I threw myself into work, pulling extra shifts at the cafe, the hiss of the espresso machine drowning out the what-ifs that looped in my head. Customers became blurs, hipsters with their oat milk lattes, suits barking orders for to-go cups, while Nathaniel's absence carved a hollow in my chest. I'd catch glimpses of him in strangers. The curve of a jawline in line, the lilt of a laugh from the corner table. Temptation whispered to call, to drive to the airport and beg, but betrayal's scar held me back, a reminder that sweetness could sour in an instant. Jake dragged me out one Friday, to a dive bar in Fremont where the jukebox spun Springsteen and the air smelled of stale peanuts and spilled IPA. "You need to get laid, man," he said, slapping a pint my down. "Or at least pretend you're alive." I nursed the beer, eyes on the door, half hoping, half dreading it'd swing open to blonde curls and blue eyes. Didn't. Instead, a text from an unknown number. "He's gone. Boston bound. Thought you should know. Eliza." His sister, the radar. I stared at it, thumb hovering over reply. But what could I say? Thanks for the knife twist? I deleted it, ordered another round, let the alcohol blur the edges. Sleep came in fits, dreams tangled with memories. Our first kiss in the ferry terminal, salt spray on our lips as the boat cut through the sound. Lazy Sundays sketching in Volunteer Park, his pencil flying while I read Kerouac aloud. He'd murmur agreements, head on my knee, and I'd think, this is it, the road we've been chasing. But waking to empty sheets, the city felt smaller, suffocating. I started running the paths along Green Lake at dawn, pounding pavement until my lungs burned, chasing the high of exhaustion. It was on one of those runs, phone buzzing in my pocket, that the call came from him. "Fing? It's me." Nathaniel's voice, tinny through the speaker, but still that velvet timbre that unraveled me. I stopped dead, bent double, gasping. "Don't hang up, please." Background noise, clatter of silverware, murmur of accents. A diner, maybe en route east. "I landed last night. It's hell." He paused, and I heard the unsaid, "Miss you." Temptation surged, hot and insistent. Tell him to turn around, that we'd figure it out. But conflict brewed in my gut, the raw ache of abandonment. "What do you want, Nate? Closure? 'Cause I got plenty of that from your letter." A sigh heavy as the Atlantic he'd crossed. "I want to explain. Dad's weak, thin, thinner than I remembered. Eyes like he's already half gone. Mom's holding it together with manicures and martinis, but Eliza, she sees right through me. Asked about you point blank. My heart stuttered. Elite. Said you were a friend. But it killed me. Sweetness in the confession, the way he still reached across miles. We talked for an hour, voices low, weaving around the landmines. Claire's presence, hovering like a specter. The firm's offer, a golden handcuff he couldn't shake. "Come out," I said, finally reckless. "Thanksgiving. Just a weekend. Prove we're worth it." He hesitated, the silence a chasm. "I can't. Not yet. But Christmas, promise. We'll go away somewhere warm. Key West, maybe. No families, no scripts." The temptation of palm trees and his hand in mine pulled at me, but doubt lingered. "No more half measures, Nate. I'm all in or nothing." His "I love you" echoed as we hung up, a lifeline or a noose. I couldn't tell. Winter deepened, the city decking itself in lights that mocked my solitude. I decorated my apartment anyway, stringing LEDs along the windowsill, baking gingerbread that tasted like ash. Jake hosted a Friendsgiving potluck, a ragtag crew of artists and techies crammed into his loft, passing turkey and tales of hookups gone wrong. I smiled through it, but midway, buzzed on Pinot, I slipped out to the fire escape, staring at the twinkling skyline. That's when Eliza texted again. "He's miserable. Claire's pushing the wedding. Talk to him." My thumb flew. "Why do you care?" Her reply, "Because he loves you, idiot, and family's more than blood." The message ignited something. Anger, hope, a cocktail of both. I called him that night, voicemail be damned. He picked up on the second ring, voice thick with sleep or scotch. "Fing? What's wrong?" Everything I wanted to say. Instead, "Your sister's meddling. Says you're drowning." Pause, then a chuckle, bitter. "She's right. Claire cornered me today, ring shopping like Dad's dying is a cue for vows." I told her no, but the but hung, laden with the weight of legacy. We whispered then, like old times. Plans for escape, dreams of a life unscripted. "You're my temptation, Finn Harper, he said, soft. The sweetness I can't quit. But betrayal's shadow loomed larger with each passing week. Rumors trickled in via mutual friends. Nathaniel spotted at galas, arm linked with Claire's, flashing that society smile. I scrolled his Instagram, public now, curated shots of Boston brownstones and family portraits. No trace of us. Temptation twisted into torment. I'd wake sweating from nightmares of him in a tux, her veil down, our whispers silenced forever. Jake staged an intervention over coffee. Block him, man. You're torturing yourself. But blocking felt like amputation. The climax built slow, a pressure cooker of unspoken fears, until it blew on a crisp December eve. I'd taken a rare day off, wandering Pike Place, the market alive with holly wreaths and fishmongers' shouts. My phone rang, unknown Massachusetts number. Mom. Not his.
Mine. Finn. Heini?
You okay? You sound distant lately. Her voice, warm as apple pie from our Ohio farm days, cracked my armor. I spilled it all on a bench by the harbor. The love, the lies, the longing. She listened. Then, sweetheart, love's not a secret to keep. It's a light to share. But if he's dimming yours, let him go. Her words echoed as I walked home, resolve hardening. That night, I booked a ticket, not to Boston, but to Portland, a solo reset amid craft brew and bookshops. Freedom tasted sharp, like the gin I sipped alone in my kitchen, toasting to what-ifs. But as midnight tolled, a knock shattered the quiet. There he was, Nathaniel, duffel at his feet, snowflakes melting in his hair, eyes wild. I couldn't stay away. He'd driven straight from Logan, 16 hours of highways and heartache. We collided in the doorway, his mouth on mine fierce and forgiving, the sweetness flooding back like a dam break. We tumbled inside, coats shed in a trail, collapsing onto the couch in a heap of limbs and laughter. Claire, I murmured, fingers in his curls. Told her it's over. For good. His confession spilled then. The confrontation at his parents' brownstone. Voices raised over roast beef and resentment. Dad pulled me aside after. Said he always knew I was different. Wished I'd trusted him sooner. Tears welled, but joy too. The humanistic crack in the facade. Family bending instead of breaking. We whispered till dawn, plans solidifying. He'd wrap things up in Boston, join me here. No more hiding. But dawn brought reality's glare. His phone buzzed, Eliza. Mom's asking questions. Be careful. The conflict reignited, subtle but searing. One more holiday, he pleaded. Then I'm yours. Temptation won again. The allure of his body curled against mine too potent. We made love slow, reverent. No rush, just the poetry of skin on skin, breaths sinking like waves. Sweetness enveloped us, but betrayal's ghost hovered, whispering doubts. Christmas Eve dawned brittle and bright, the rare Seattle sun gilding the evergreens like a fragile truce. Nathaniel had to go back. Just for the day, he swore. Family obligations pulling like gravity. I drove him to Seattle-Tacoma, hand in his on the gearshift, the radio crooning Bing Crosby's carols as irony. Call me when you land, I said at the drop-off, kissing him deep, tasting pine from the wreath I'd hung. He nodded, eyes promising return. But as his cab pulled away, doubt slithered in. Betrayal's echo. What if this is goodbye dressed as holiday cheer? I spent the day wandering, a ghost in my own city. Eliot Bay books first, losing myself in stacks of poetry. Whitman on comrades, his words a bomb. We two boys together clinging. Then the waterfront, feeding gulls crumbs from a chow, watching fairies slice the sound. Temptation nagged. Text him, demand photos, proof of fidelity. But trust, I reminded myself, is the humanistic core, the choice to believe in whispers over screams. By evening, my apartment glowed with candles. A pot of chili simmering, guitar tuned for serenades. His flight was due at 9. I'd be waiting. The knock came at 10:30, hesitant. Not him, Claire. She stood there, elegant in cashmere and pearls, auburn hair pinned like a crown, a bottle of Pinot in hand. Finn, right? May I come in? Her voice, polished as the bottle's label, brooked no refusal. I stepped aside, pulse thundering, as she glided past, appraising the space with a cool glance. Charming, very bohemian. She set the wine down, turning to face me, eyes sharp as December frost. Nathaniel's delayed. Storm over the Rockies. But I thought we should talk. Conflict ignited like dry tinder. About? I asked, arms crossed, though my voice wavered. She smiled, not unkindly, more like a professor correcting a pupil. Us, him, this, interlude. Interlude. The word stung, reducing our love to a footnote. She poured 2 glasses, handing me one, and sank onto the couch, legs crossed. I flew out last month to bring him home. Saw the pain in his eyes. Not for my sake, but yours. You're good for him, Finn. In a way I never could be. Her confession disarmed me. Sweetness in the vulnerability she masked so well. Then why fight it? I pressed, sipping the wine bold, like her. She traced the glass rim, gazed distant. Family. Duty. The script, as he calls it. My father's firm merged with his, it's business, but it feels personal. And Nathaniel. He's always been the golden boy, but I see the cracks. You fill them.
Temptation flickered. Alliance?
But betrayal loomed, her presence here, uninvited, a violation. He chose me, I said firm. Chose us. She nodded, standing. He did, and I'll step aside. But tell him, before he breaks you both. She left then, heels clicking into the night, leaving the wine and a weight of unspoken pacts. I called him, voice steady as I relate it. Claire was here. Silence, then his gasp. What? Finn. I'm so. The storm had grounded his flight. He was stuck in Denver, frantic. I'll rent a car. Be there by morning. We whispered assurances till battery died. Love's thread taut across the miles. He arrived at dawn, disheveled and divine, bursting through the door with coffee and croissants, sweeping me into an embrace that erased the hours apart. Merry Christmas, he murmured, lips brushing my temple. We unwrapped each other slowly. His gift a leather-bound sketchbook, pages filled with us. My profile against the needle, our hands intertwined on a fairy deck. Mine for him. A silver chain with a tiny anchor pendant, symbol of holding steady. Sweetness saturated the day, eggnog by the tree, his head in my lap as we watched It's a Wonderful Life, tears for George's despair mirroring our own near misses. But the holiday high crashed on New Year's. Eliza called while we prepped fondue. Her tone clipped, Dad's taken a turn. Nathaniel needs to come now. He froze, fork midway to the pot, eyes meeting mine in silent plea. Conflict tore at us. The pull of blood versus the bond of hearts. Go, I said, forcing calm. But come back. He nodded, packing in a whirlwind, our goodbye kiss tasting of chocolate and goodbye. This is it, he vowed at the door, wrapping up loose ends. 2 weeks, max. Those weeks stretched like taffy, sticky and interminable. Texts came sporadic. Board meeting hell. Miss you. Then silence, days of radio quiet. Temptation bred paranoia. I imagined him in tailored suits, Claire's hand on his arm at galas, the Boston elite toasting his return. Jake pulled me into a New Year's bash at the Crocodile, bass thumping through my bones as confetti rained. Midnight struck. I kissed a stranger's cheek, but my mind chanted his name. Betrayal confirmed via a forwarded article. Eliza's doing. Ellis Air announces engagement amid family health scare. Photo attached. Nathaniel, stiff in black tie, Claire beaming beside him, rings glinting. The world tilted. I drove to the bridge that night, rain lashing anew, the same spot where our unraveling began. Phone in hand, I dialed, voicemail beeping. You lied. I roared into the void. Again. Hung up, hurled the phone into the drink, watching it sink like our dreams. Humanistic reckoning. Love demands truth, not temptation's veil. He showed days later, pounding on my door at 3 a.m., face gaunt, eyes haunted. It was staged, a PR move for the firm to calm investors. Dad's pushing, but I said no. His arms wrapped around me, desperate. Believe me, conflict raged. Pull away or pull closer. Sweetness won, tentative as we collapsed into bed, bodies seeking solace. But trust fractured, whispers now laced with questions. Spring thawed the city, cherry blossoms rioting pink along the avenues, mocking my wintered heart. Nathaniel stayed, subletting his studio, our lives entwining. Mornings tangled in sheets, evenings sketching by the fire. He quit freelancing for a local agency, roots digging in. This is home, he'd say, kissing my knuckles. Temptation faded to commitment. We hosted dinners for Jake and Eliza, who visited, approving with a wink. But betrayal's scar itched. Claire's emails to him, friendly check-ins that reeked of unfinished business. The climax crested in May, under a canopy of dogwoods in Gasworks Park. We'd picnicked, wine loosening tongues, when his phone chimed. A video call from his father. The old man, frail in hospital blues, beckoned. Son, come home. One last time. Nathaniel's face drained. He glanced at me, torn. I can't keep splitting myself. The words hung, a precipice. I stood, heart pounding. Then don't. Choose. He chose me. But the call home unearthed ghosts. Dad's confession, whispered bedside, of his own hidden youth, a love lost to the closet. Don't repeat my mistakes, he'd urged. Nathaniel returned changed, lighter, vowing transparency. We planned a road trip, Route 101 South, cliffs and coastlines, sealing our pact. Yet conflict simmered. Claire arrived unannounced again, this time at the cafe, cornering me mid-shift. He's using you as a crutch, she hissed, voice low. Boston broke him. You'll mend, then he'll run. Temptation to lash out, but humanism prevailed. I saw her pain, the woman jilted by duty's script. He's chosen, I said gently. Let go. She left, head high, but her words burrowed. Summer unfurled in golden haze. Seattle shedding its skin for tank tops and rooftop barbecues. Nathaniel and I dove in, kayaking on Lake Union at sunset, paddles slicing water like shared breaths. Farmers markets in Fremont, sampling heirloom tomatoes and stealing kisses behind berry stalls. Sweetness bloomed unchecked. His sketches now featured us boldly. Framed on my wall, a gallery of our becoming. Temptation morphed to trust, whispers evolving to declarations shouted over fairy horns. Marry me? He'd joke, tossing pebbles into the bay, but his eyes held the question earnest. Betrayal's final shadow fell in July, a heat wave turning the city to steam. He vanished mid-morning. Meeting ran long, returning at dusk, reeking of scotch and regret. What happened? I demanded, door slamming. He collapsed at the kitchen table, head in hands. Dad died. Sudden heart, they think. I flew out. Finn. Couldn't tell you. The call came during the pitch. Grief poured from him, raw and unfiltered, but laced with the unsaid. Claire at the funeral, her hand on his elbow in photos circulating family chats. She was there for Mom, he explained, voice breaking. Old habits. Conflict erupted. My accusations flying like sparks. Habits? Or temptations you can't quit? He recoiled, hurt mirroring mine. I grieved alone because I didn't want to drag you into their world. But you're my world. We circled each other that night, words weapons, until exhaustion claimed us on the living room floor, backs to the wall, hands finding each other in the dark. Dawn brought apologies, coffee brewed black, and a drive to the coast. Escape reset. Highway 101 wound us south, windows down, wind whipping confessions free. In Cannon Beach, we walked Haystack Rock at low tide, tide pools mirroring our fragile peace. I almost went back, he admitted, skipping stones. After the service, Claire offered normalcy. Easy. My gut twisted, but I pressed. What stopped you? Him, turning, eyes fierce. You, the life we're building. No more half-truths. We kissed there, salt-crusted and sun-warmed. The ocean's roar drowning doubts. Humanistic revelation. Love isn't flawless. It's forged in fires of forgiveness. Back in Seattle, we rebuilt deliberate couples therapy with a queer counselor in Capitol Hill, unpacking closets and legacies. Eliza visited often, bridging worlds with her dry wit and insider scoops. Mom warming to Finn the artist, shipping care packages of clam chowder mix. Jake threw us a not-wedding party at his loft, vows exchanged over IPAs. Rings simple silver bands engraved with anchors. Sweetness saturated. Nathaniel's proposal proper on the bridge, not in storm but starlight, down on one knee with a velvet box. Whispers started us, he said, voice steady. Let shouts seal us. Yes, 1,000 times. But climax's aftershocks lingered. Claire's final gambit arrived in autumn. A letter, elegant script on monogram stationery. He's always run from roots. You'll see. I burned it in the sink. Flames curling like released ghosts. But doubt flickered. Temptation tested us during a gallery opening. His designs on display, schmoozers circling, one lingering too long, hand on his arm. Jealousy flared. I stormed out, wandering rain-slick streets till he found me at our spot, the cafe awning dripping. No one else, he vowed, pulling me close. Only you. Winter circled back, softer now. Our first holiday as fiancés, a tapestry of traditions blended. His Boston clam chowder with my Ohio Buckeyes, tree trimmed with sketches and family ornaments. Eliza flew in, Mom too. Awkward at first, her farm-fresh warmth clashing with East Coast polish, but laughter bridged it over eggnog, stories shared of lost loves and found families. Humanism shone. Imperfections not barriers, but bridges. The true crescendo came in spring, under cherry petals shedding like confetti. We'd bought a fixer-upper in Wallingford. Creaky floors, view of the sound. A canvas for our forever. Painting walls sky blue, brushes dueling, paint flecking cheeks. We paused for a breath. His arms around me from behind. Remember the bridge? He murmured. Thought we'd lost this. I turned, forehead to his. We almost did. But whispers led here. Temptation to truth, sweetness in the struggle. Our wedding was small, humanistic core. Backyard of the new house, friends in folding chairs. Jake officiating with vows cribbed from E. Cummings. Nathaniel in linen, me in chambray, exchanging rings under an arbor of twining roses. I choose you, he said, voice carrying on the breeze. Every storm, every sunrise. Kisses sealed it, cheers rising, the city a distant hum. Years folded forward. A graphic studio we co-ran, dog-eared sketchbooks multiplying. Trips east, mending ties with his mom over brunches, her eyes softening at our joined hands. Betrayal became backstory, a scar faded to lesson. Love demands courage, not perfection. Temptation? Now it's the thrill of his glance across a crowded room, the sweetness of morning coffees shared in bed. Looking back, from that rainy hook to this sun-dappled now, our story's no fairy tale. It's American grit, hearts whispering through tempests to emerge tender, unbroken. Nathaniel sleeps beside me as I write this, curl against my shoulder, breath steady. I trace his jaw, whispering thanks to the fates that tangled us. In a world of scripts and shadows, we wrote our own bold, unapologetic, full of the quiet heroism of simply loving well. And if the rain returns, we'll dance in it, hands linked, whispering promises anew. Because between two hearts, that's where the real magic lives, not in perfection, but in the messy, magnificent pull toward each other.